Pastor James Dobb and the members of St. Paul Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod, thank you for joining with us today.
Hi guys. How's it going? Good. So my name is Elena, and I grew up in the former Soviet Union with my sister Yulia. She's a younger, like 2 years younger than I am, and my original name is actually Petrova Elena Vladimirovna. Could we say that 3 times? Yeah, I didn't think so. But so where we grew up, it's in a little town called Pskov, and we actually grew up in a physically and emotionally broken home. We had a house, but we had a lot of broken windows, and we couldn't fix them because my parents, they would actually go off and they would work all day, but they would never get paid with money or food. They would always get paid with alcohol. And so when they were off working, it was my responsibility as the oldest to take care of myself and my sister. And so each morning we would start our day by looking for food. And so we would look for food in our drawers and every crack in our house, like everywhere we could think of, and the only thing we would find was alcohol bottles and nothing else. And so the next logical thing for us was to go outside and see what we could find out in the nature. And so sometimes we were just so hungry that we just needed something in our stomachs that we would actually climb trees and we would eat the leaves off of those trees. So I always joke and say, I tried to be vegetarian, it didn't work for me. Now I eat chicken. It's really good. We did have apple trees in the back of our house. I don't know how they got there. Like, we didn't plant them there, they were just there. I totally believe that God just kind of pointed his finger and apple trees were there, because we had like 7 or 8 different apple trees and they were all very fruitful. And so if it wasn't for those apple trees and if it wasn't for what God provided in the nature, my sister and myself would not have been here today, because we would have starved to death. When my parents came home after working all day and getting paid with alcohol, they came home and they would come home very drunk. And so when my dad was very drunk, he was very angry and very abusive. And so each night when he came home, whatever his hand touched, that's what he was going to use on my mom. So sometimes the firewood, sometimes it was the fire poker. And so the first time we tried to pull him off, he gave us the look of, you're going to be next. It scared us so bad that we actually ran out of the house and we would hide for hours until my mom would come and find us. So that was just the life that we had until I was 8. And when I was 8, my sister and I were put into our first orphanage because my parents were caught stealing some items, so they were put into prison. And so for me, being in an orphanage, that was kind of like safe haven, just because like they had someone there 24/7, like a caregiver, to help me to raise my sister, because by that time I was, the one raising her. And so for an 8-year-old girl, that was a very difficult job. So having someone there 24/7 to help me with that was really nice. They also gave me an opportunity to start my first grade. So I started first grade when I was 8. So that was really cool because I got to experience school and all that stuff. And then the coolest thing is, they provided 3 meals a day. And like I said, we hardly had 1 meal a day at our house. To have 3 meals a day, that was like hallelujah. I like food. I can eat buffets like every day of my life. I like Chinese buffets in particular because they make you sleepy after you eat, And so I love food. And so having 3 meals a day in the orphanage, that was like, I was in heaven. Not really, but that's how it felt because we had so much food. And then after, we stayed at that orphanage for about 2 years, and then my sister and I were moved to our second orphanage. And if you guys know anything about orphanages, usually siblings get separated, but God knew that without each other, we wouldn't have been able to keep going. And so he actually allowed us to be moved to the second orphanage together. And so at the second orphanage, again, we had caregivers, we had food, we had school, but this school was a little bit different. It was an orphan school, and so the education wasn't really good. We had a 13-year-old girl who was in 2nd or 3rd grade. And if you think about it, by the age of 18 in the orphanage, usually we would get kicked out because they need more room for more kids. And so if you think about it, she's 13. 5 years later, she could have made it to 6th or 7th grade if she was lucky. And so can you imagine to kick your kids out who are like 6th or 7th grade, or your grandkids out, and expect them to succeed. Like, there was no way. And so as an orphan girl, like, my future, there was like no future for me. I had nothing to look forward to. And so also at the school, even like the school education was really good. And then there was a public school right next to an orphan school. So each morning when we walked to our orphan school, we've seen the kids being dropped off by their parents at the public school, being dropped off by their grandparents, being loved on by their grandparents. And as early as I can remember, I started thinking, like, why don't I have that? What's wrong with me? What did I do not to deserve that? And also at this orphanage, we didn't have a lot of clothes, so we had to share clothes, not only like girls and girls, but girls and guys had to share clothes, so sometimes it was just not a pretty sight, Yeah, traumatized. But then some of us, like, there wasn't enough shoes for everybody, so some of us had to wear shoes that were too small for us, and so I was one of those kids. I had to wear shoes that were too small for me. And after a while, like, my feet were still growing because, I was a kid, and my toes didn't have a place to grow, and so they actually started to crunch up like this. And it started to be painful to walk, and I didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was normal. Also, at this orphanage, we didn't have a lot of toys. Actually, we didn't have any toys. So like, we had to be very creative. Kids, we like to play with toys. We just didn't have any, so just had to be very creative. You guys know the game of jacks, bouncy ball, little twisty thing. Yeah, we didn't have stuff like that, but we had a game similar to jacks. It was just with rocks. We would get 5 rocks, and instead of like bouncing a rock, because you can't do that with a rock, that just doesn't work. You would actually throw the rock up, and you pick up the rocks, and then you catch the rock. It was a really fascinating game. So that's what we had to play with, just whatever we find in the nature. And as girls, we like to play with Barbies. I mean, we've seen Barbies on TV, on commercials and stuff like that, but again, we just didn't have Barbies. And so we would actually create our own. And this, you guys could actually try in the spring, because it's really cool. You would get a stick about this big, a very skinny stick, and you would get a dandelion that comes in the spring, and you would separate the stem of the dandelion into like 3 little pieces. You usually try to do 5, but that usually doesn't work out, so you just do 3, because you want your Barbie to have at least 3 pieces of hair. She's lucky if she has 3. And then you stick it on a stick, and you have a Barbie. It's as skinny as a stick, because it is a stick, And as orphans, we always wanted families, and so our Barbies had to have families, So we can't tell the difference between a male stick and a female stick, and so we had to like just rip off the hair off of males so they could be bald. They don't need hair. And as orphans, we always wanted mom and dads, and so these stick Barbies always needed kids, and so we would make the stick a little bit smaller, and so we had a family of sticks. So it was fantastic. And we actually figured this out, but if you were to give a bath to your Barbie, you put the hair in the water, the stem, you put it in the water, and you put it in the sun, the hair will actually curl. So you can have Barbie with straight hair, or you can have Barbie with curly hair. I wish that could do with my hair, wash my hair and then blow dry it and it'll be curly. That would be fantastic. It just doesn't work for me. But yeah, we just figured out stuff to do even though we didn't have anything in the orphanage. And so there was one year that I was like at my lowest point. Like I said, I have a younger sister that always looks up to me to be the strong person, And this year, like, it seemed like every time I was trying to succeed in something else would cut me at my knees. And I was just at my lowest point, like I said earlier, there was no hope for me in the future, like nothing to look forward to. At the orphanage, there wasn't much of love given. The caregivers were there to do their job, and that was it. And so there was no love, there was no hope, like, why am I still here kind of thing. And so that's when God provided us a shoebox. And for me and my sister, just holding a shoebox, that was unique in itself, because until that point, my sister and I have never received a gift before. We didn't celebrate birthdays or Christmas or anything like that. And like, I didn't know I had a birthday that people would celebrate me for. So having a shoebox full of toys just specifically for me, that was a miracle in itself. And so I actually waited for my sister to open her shoebox first, because I wanted to make sure that she had what she wanted. Like any mother, I wanted her to have the best. But the thing about these shoeboxes is the fact that God knows exactly where these shoeboxes go to. Like, we don't even have to worry about it, because I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't know what to pack. Warm clothes, cold clothes, Believe me, God knows. All you have to do, our job is to just pray and pack these shoeboxes. And He will go before these shoeboxes and He will take care of them, Because God knows exactly where these shoeboxes go to. He knows the child that is going to receive these shoeboxes, because He's the one that created that specific child. And so my sister, she's an artist. She likes to paint and draw, and she's really good at it. I mean, she could look at the picture, copy it down, and it will look like a copy of it, and she's really good with that. I can't do that with stick figures, but she could do that with like horses and fancy stuff like that. But again, in the orphanage, she couldn't practice that skill because resources that we had, like pens and paper, that was for school usage only. And so she couldn't just pick up a piece of paper and draw with it. And so God, being the great God that He is, He provided her a shoebox full of artistic things. She had coloring books, coloring pencils, she had like coloring markers, and not just like 36 markers, it was like 64 markers, And she loved every one of those things in her shoebox. And she got red leather pants in her shoebox. And seriously, she pulled these things out, and she was very excited about them. She put them very fast, put them on, and they were very tight and very small, and she wouldn't take them off for nothing. She kept them on for a week, and I don't know if she could take them off because of how small they were on her, but she loved everything in her shoebox. That shoebox was hers, And so, again, God did a wonderful job with that shoebox. And so it gave me courage to open my shoebox, because by that time, I felt like I was disappointed so many times. I was actually afraid to open my shoebox, because my shoebox was wrapped in a colorful wrapping paper, the Christmas wrapping paper, and so it looked very bright, very colorful, and so I was afraid that if I was to open it, the inside wouldn't be as bright. And boy, was I wrong, because when I opened my shoebox, I opened my shoebox, and there was a glow of pink on my face. It was kind of thing. Because seriously, my shoebox was full of color pink, and I did not realize that I like color pink until I got that shoebox. My shoebox was every shade of pink you can think of, and God knew that about me before I even knew that about myself. And so I had a couple things that actually stood out to me, and one of them was a toothpaste. It was bubblegum flavor, so it was pink, and I ate half of the tube before I realized it was toothpaste. Yeah, but I'm still alive, so that's good. There was a pink pen, and I loved this pen. This pink pen was really cool just because it was pink pen, because in the orphanage we had a blue pen for students and a red pen for teachers, So having a pink pen was just unique. But my pink pen wasn't just a pink pen. It had fluffies on top of this pen, and on top of the fluffies there was a wire, and on top of the wire there was a heart. And it would just dingle back and forth. And I watched it for 5 minutes just going back and forth. Got cross-eyed a couple times, but that was okay, because the pen was really cool. And as I pressed down on a piece of paper, because I wanted to see if the ink of the pen was pink, as I pressed down, the heart of the pen lit up. And I went ballistic. If you can imagine a little kid going crazy, that was me. I was like, guys, drop everything. Look at my pen, I was the most popular kid for 5 minutes because of that pen. That pen was fantastic, and I loved everything in my box. I had a teddy bear, it was pink. I had socks, they were pink, and I had bubble gum. It was fantastic as well, because in the orphanage, if you have gum, you chew it very loudly, because that means you're very cool. And you want everybody to know that you have gum, and so you just chew it very loudly. And so I loved everything in my box, but the thing that I loved the most was the fact that somebody packed a box for me. Because until that point, I've taken care of my sister, I've taken care of other orphans, in the orphanage, but nobody has taken care of me. And so with that shoebox, somebody, for the first time, was taking care of me. And that was the coolest feeling ever, because that was the first time that I felt love from a stranger. And not only that, but with each and every one of these shoeboxes, kids receive a booklet similar to this. It's actually, you can't read it, but it's in my own native language. And each and every box that a kid receives, they get a booklet like this on top of a box. And it's in their own native language, and this booklet is called The Greatest Gift. And it tells us the story of Jesus and how he came and died for our sins. And for me as an orphan, tales, just to get away from the reality that I was living. But when I read this booklet and it told me that there was a creator that loved me so much that he came and he died for me, a nobody, an orphan, a nobody that nobody loved or wanted, and he loved me and wanted me so bad that he actually gave up his son because he wanted to know me, because he wanted to have me in his family. I thought this was the biggest fairy tale I have ever read, because this booklet was telling me that there was a King of Kings that loved me a lot, so much that you can't even describe it in words. And like I said, I thought it was the biggest fairy tale I have ever read. But I needed that hope to hold on to, because like I said, I didn't have anything to look forward to. And so this booklet, it gave me hope that, hey, maybe there is someone who is higher who can control my life. And so even though I didn't think it was true, I was hoping that this story, at least this story, was true. And so I started praying to God for a family that would want me and my sister together, because we were kind of a package deal. And so God provided. In 2004, my sister and I were adopted to a same family. And so being in this family, I have 2 brothers now. So God gives us bonuses sometimes, so pray more specifically. No, I love my brothers. They're really cool. They annoy me sometimes, but they're really awesome. So God gave me an earthly family, and so he used a small shoebox not only to give me an earthly family, but to use my earthly family to get me into my heavenly family. Because my dad here, he learned to say I love you in my native language, because he knew that until I was 12, I've never heard that from another human being before. And so each night my dad would come to our room and he would give me a kiss on the forehead, and he would give me a kiss on the forehead, and he would hug me, and then he says, "Ya te belle bleu," which means I love you. And first when I heard that, I was like, well, what do you want from me, kind of thing, because I've never experienced that, and I never received something without someone wanting something back. But God used my earthly father to show me that the love that he has for us, at least 1/4 of the love that he has for us. Because, my dad didn't expect anything in return whenever he said that he loved me. I could have rejected it, I could have accepted it, and that is the way God is with his love and his grace. And so some of these kids don't ever get a chance to get an opportunity to hear this and to actually have the opportunity to accept it or reject it. But with these shoeboxes, that is what we giving them. We are giving them an opportunity to get to know the greatest Father that they can ever know, and that is their Heavenly Father. And so I want to personally thank you guys for packing these shoeboxes, because without you guys and without the person that packed my crazy pink shoebox, I don't know where I would be today. I know I probably would not be here today. I probably would be on streets working so I could possibly feed my sister for the night. But God used a small shoebox not only to get me to America, but to have me graduate from college with a degree of cross-cultural missions, because I have a heart to work with orphans and tell them one thing that nobody told me until I got a shoebox and a booklet like this, and that there is a Heavenly Father that loved me so much, that wanted me in his family, that he gave up his son for me. And that is the greatest gift that we can give to these kids. They love and enjoy all the little toys that we put in those shoeboxes, but it's not even about that. It is more about the love and the hope that we put in these shoeboxes, the joy that we put in these shoeboxes, and the love and the hope that they feel when they open these shoeboxes and when they open this booklet and read about God. So again, thank you guys, and I want to encourage you guys, if you packed one box, double it, triple it, quadruple it. Always forget quadruple it. Okay, but thank you guys seriously for packing, and seriously encourage you guys to pack more boxes. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Elena. We appreciate your coming and joining us and sharing how the packing of boxes in our fellowship hall truly does make a big difference. One of the things we include in with ours is a little card, and it has John 3:16 in about 6 or 8 different languages in the back. So now I'll have to see if I have Russian on there or not, so we might have to change that. But Elena and crew, you may recognize Stephanie. Stephanie was here last year. I want to say Leslie, but that's not right. Lindsay. I was close. They have another engagement this morning. Poor Elena has 2 more this morning. Hey, I'm telling you. So and she was on the news last night even. So that was great. So we thank you for giving us the opportunity to hear your story. So God's blessings.